season is really, really challenging, and I wouldn't recommend it just because you're already the demands of you for pitching, and specifically if you're a starting pitcher or you're a relief pitcher is getting a lot of time, you're already having to constantly battle that wear and tear. So in season is a tough time to try to make significant increases in velocity. Now you can still make increases, but it's typically going to come in just the act of you getting more throws in. You're going to pick up some velocity, and then ultimately as you start to get worn down, it starts to go down. Ideally in season, because of that, you got to maintain. But we're going to really dress this towards something like right now where you're still in your off season trying to make big gains. You want to get in on this?
No. Hey guys.
All right, we got Gary in here. Gary's going to be, hopefully, I still got to get you playing too. Gary's going to be at the ABCA. We're going to be at the ABCA on January 3rd through 5th.
I'm a little camera shy, so that's why it's not my time to be on camera yet.
It is. It is your time.
So that's why
your time is now, Gary.
In about 2
Gary,
months.
answer a question, Gary. Come on, one question. Hey, I think about buying. Okay. What was Trev's power clean when he was topped at 90, 84, 85? In the interview, I think he said he's doing 250 plus. During poor hip extension result in less dynamic trunk extension. So he's saying poor hip extension would result in less dynamic trunk extension. I don't know. You mean in this way? That's a little confusing to me. You talking extension this way? That's what extension means.
You won't be able to use your trunk if you're not able to activate your hips properly anyway. Like if you don't get your hips all the way through, you're not going to have that torque or the separation.
And then that's not going to want to carry your trunk forward. Or it's going to be harder for you because if you can't drive through your back hip, then you're not going to be able to, it's not going to have the energy that wants to throw it forward. Therefore, it might just want to rotate. Right?
Mm-hmm. You got to use the entire body, and if the hips aren't activated, then you're just out. You're going to try to compensate in other areas if you don't have that energy from the hip.
If you have an angle of greater than, say, 100 degrees between bicep and forearm while releasing the ball, will that reduce velocity? No. Studies show you actually, for arm health, you don't want to be fully extended when you release the pitch. You want to have some flexion. That reduces the distraction forces. If you're too extended, your arm wants to pull out of socket more, so it's harder on your arm. If there's a little flexion in it, it wants to turn over and decelerate. But as far as velocity, when you go to pitch release, it doesn't really affect it there. It's more the velocity improvements were more in where the elbow is abducted to. If it was abducted lower than 90, it was hard on the arm, and you wouldn't be as, I guess, your velocity wouldn't be as high. But if you went up to 100 degrees, I think that's where velocity was. I think velocity was the highest at 90. The arm was actually at a healthier slot at 100 because the arm will actually lay back better at a higher slot. But it's the slot's not just pulling your elbow up. It is a little. I mean, it is. But also you got to get your trunk in that contralateral position, which also links to velocity. Any mobility exercises for hip abduction?
Band work.
Tell them some that you would do.
We use a lot of the bands, and you just get down on your knee and squeeze your glute and push your hip out. The squeezing your glute is going to make your hip go out. So we just do that in both directions, facing and also facing away. That's a good one. We have a vibration machine that we have here, and man, it's so beneficial.
Tell them about vibration therapy. How that works.
I'm not really I don't know everything about it, but I just know that it produces, it loosens everything up. Like you'll be there in those positions, and the vibration will just continue. If you stay in there long enough, it'll continue just to loosen you up, and then it just tells your body that that's the position that you're supposed to be in. So as you continue to do it, you're going to adapt, and it's just when you transfer it over to your mechanics, your body's going to be so used to being in that position that it knows to go there.
Yeah, you do a cool one. So these are these machines you can stand on. You can get them on Amazon. They vibrate. Some vibrate slow. Some vibrate very quickly where your jaw is chattering. And I like how Gary gets on there and he'll put a pole, a dowel on his back, and he'll turn with the hips open and stretch the thoracic rotation, And all that vibration as you're doing that really releases it and really opens up all that thoracic rotation, which is really critical for performing hip to shoulder separation. It's something, if you just saw the testimony of Travis Owens, who went 86 just here in camp to 95 13 days later, but he had been in the programs before this. He said he worked a lot on that thoracic rotation. He said that's the one thing he really spent a lot of time on. So let's see. I think that's a good one. What was another good one? Can you elaborate more?
For hip mobility?
Or abduction. Talk about like the banded frogs, like when you get down on your knees. I got to do this. Can you tell them how you get on your knees, the banded frog?
Oh, and you sit back into the hips? Well, on this one, you actually get down on your knees and you push your hips back as far as you can while extending your trunk and just continue to just like sit back. It's really painful, honestly, but you just sit back as far as you can and continue to push your butt back to where you're sitting into the hips and into the glutes. Let's see. I just explained how to do that one.
Let's see, where are we? How long does your wisdom teeth pain last for? What do you think of that one, Gary?
Until you get them cut out.
Exactly. Steven won't get his out. That answers my question. Okay. Hit 33 on lateral med ball throw. Doesn't 40 on lateral correlate to 90? No. The lateral med balls, we usually say you can double it. So I'd say guys who are in the 80s are hitting 40. You want to be hitting like 44s, 45s, 46s, specifically with the laterals. How do you help someone that is throwing 3/4 arm side? So if you're in a more sidearm slot or 3/4 slot and you're still able to separate to get there, I'm fine. It's just a lot of guys that get out here, everything drags and goes early, and that's the problem. So I really try to make sure that if the guy's 3/4, it's coming out of separation, which is a healthier way to go into the 3/4. Let's see. When is the camp in Atlanta? We don't have that scheduled yet.
I'll be right back. Let me turn my truck off.
Okay, cool. Is it bad that my lat is always super sore after throwing? Dom, that's not a bad thing because the lat is a accelerator decelerator, and I would rather that be taking a lot of the stress than say your rotator cuff. So there's a study that showed that high velocity pitchers or professional pitchers actually use more lat, and amateur pitchers use more rotator cuff. So that's a good thing to use your lat. It's a big muscle. It can handle a lot of the stress. I just realized we didn't start the Facebook feed. So I'm just starting the Facebook feed. Any tips for submarine pitchers to gain velo? Is it different? It's all the same. The challenge for guys that are submarine is it's hard for them to separate, and then you can't get a lot of forward trunk tilt because your arm wants to come around your body. So you're still trying to separate and get as much as you can, but that's typically why submarine guys don't throw as hard, because their trunks can't really push out. So you're trying to do all the same stuff, and you don't really want to drop your trunk too early. I think a lot of submarine guys coming out of leg lift, they immediately want to drop their trunk, and that throws their momentum way off to first base. You're still trying to delay, separate, and then drop your trunk. The later you can, the better, is really the key. Let's see, I have an arm injury that I'm almost done recovering from. Would it impact anything if I decided to get the velocity package? Yeah, I mean, we focus on that. I mean, it doesn't affect it. You just need to know where you are coming in. If you're coming in with an injury, that needs to be your number one priority, is to fix the injury in the process of learning the training, and it works that way because you're learning the kinetic chain, and using the kinetic chain is going to reduce injury or reduce risk of injury, but it's just going to be a slower process. So if you're coming in with injury, you got to know where you're starting. You're not starting, all the way up in an advanced aspect of it, going as hard as you can. You got to know where you are, and if you came into the camp, we could ultimately help you with that. How do we increase ankle mobility? Is it important? Can you give something on ankle mobility?
I do squats.
And talk about walking too.
For me, the vibration machine is key with me on a lot of these different things. Also, just trying to sit into it, activating your dorsiflexion, that helps. What else? I like using the strength shoes as well. Like while I'm doing my squats, I use those strength shoes, the ones that have like the heel on them, and it honestly allows you to focus on your ankle mobility. What would you say about getting the king of the hill will gain more reload since my back leg is terrible? Like if I don't have it, I'm not getting the full potential. All right, we have another question about the king of the hill.
Would you say, so did you answer that already?
The best I could. You may be able to give some more. I just...
So would you say getting the king of the hill will gain more velocity since my back leg drive is terrible? What'd you say?
Vibration machine, and then also like the band work and sitting into it with the dorsiflexion.
As far as gaining velocity?
Oh,
for the king of the hill? He was asking, is the king of the hill a good thing? Did you answer that or not?
No, I hadn't answered that.
Yeah, the king of the hill is a great tool. I wouldn't say it's completely necessary. Really you got to understand like what we do with these approaches. You got to understand how to mobilize, how to lift, and then how the biomechanics work. And then those tools like the king of the hill are really just powerful because they just help you advance quicker because they give you more feedback. So king of the hill is great, but I also recommend you get into our programming as well. There is a program that comes with the king of the hill, but it's just giving you some specific drills to use with the king of the hill. But we typically use it with all our drills when you really get into our programming. What would 42 miles per hour and the 2-pound throw equate to? I always say you can probably double it, but bigger guys can throw them harder than smaller guys. So if a small guy's throwing at 42, it's going to come out a lot faster with the baseball than if a big guy. But you could double it. So I'd say you're 84. I mean, if you want to be 90, you need to be like 45, 46, 47. Like that's when you're getting close to that range. Now, also, too, it just doesn't convert over. You got to pick the baseball up and move the same way. Problem is a lot of guys will pick the baseball up and go right back to different mechanics. We've got to teach the body to do those throws the same way. Could you explain contralateral tilt in depth and give an example of a pitcher who does this very well? No? What's contralateral tilt?
I know it's when you...
Right? Why does that help? But you work on that all the time. Why does that help?
I'm going to let you answer this.
Okay. So contralateral tilt, studies show up to about 25 degrees. So if this is 0 degrees, up to about 25 degrees of glove side increases velocity. And then past that, your velocity doesn't really go up, but your arm torques keep going up, which isn't good. So you do got to kind of be careful with it. But going over here, what it really does is it kind of holds your shoulder back because it gives you some weight on the shoulder. If you're here, it does the opposite. It causes your shoulder to want to go early. And therefore, it's going to give you some time as you drive your hip through. It's going to give you some time to keep your trunk back. And then when you go into rotation, if your elbow comes up into rotation, it really clears space for your arm to come up and then transfer up with your trunk going forward. If you're here, not only does it suffocate that hip, your arm kind of wants to go early. It wants to fly out. It has a hard time staying up. It wants to drop. So there's so many good things out of contralateral tilt. If you see a lot of my guys, they'll come set, and I make them pull everything back. I remember watching Tim Lincecum. He used to do that. He'd come set, pull everything back, and it just helps you to separate. And as everything goes for you, to really get your arm in that abducted position. So med ball separation 40 is 90? No. Not lateral separation. I'm 31 on separation and top at 85. I don't know how mine is so low. Well, it's a good point. Why is it low? It could relate to so when you throw with the two-handed throws in the med ball, it isolates your mobility a lot more. So if you are really struggling with mobility, you might be able to get away with it in the baseball, but you're having a hard time getting away with the med ball. So it just shows you if you can, because I've seen that. I've seen it with the guys that don't have good mobility. The med balls kill them. They're way down in the med balls. So that's what I think it is with you, Dom. It's a mobility issue, but it's showing you if you can overcome that with the med balls, it's going to be so much better when you pick up the baseballs. It's going to give you more range to work with. The 3 is what I want to say about the angle between the bicep and the forearm. I still don't understand what you meant. What drills can you do to keep flexion in your front leg? So you want to land in flexion in the front leg, and then you want to go to extension. Landing in flexion is getting low. If I can squat and get low, my legs flex, right? So if I'm landing too extended, my hips are probably just too high. So it's in the back leg. I got to sit forward and down the same rate and get way down here as I get out, and then that will give me a more flexed position when I land. How long does it take from the program to start seeing progress? takes time, like you tell him that. Now, Gary's been here as a trainer, is trained several testimonials through it. The best one was Dylan Cartwright. He saw it happen very quick with Dylan, but just tell him, like, what does it take to make progress in the program?
I feel like, first of all, before you even start the program, you have to have like basic level of strength. Like, I see some guys that come in here and they can't even do like an air squat, or when they put the bar, just the bar on their back to do a squat, they can't do it. So I think you need to have the basic level of strength. But as far as when you start seeing like some productivity, is like you just have to stay dedicated and like just fight through any kind of negativity. I mean, that's the main thing. And like, as long as you know that every day you're getting better and not getting discouraged, you'll see productivity.
So what do you think the guys who've had success, besides them coming in with some genetic gifts that helped, those guys that had success, like, what did you see, like, mentality-wise? Like, what did you see different?
It was just their attitude. Like I said, they never got down. They stayed even keel. Like, you know, they didn't get too high and they didn't get too low. They always were positive, and they had a good attitude. Like, even during the coaching aspect of it, if you told them to do something extra, they were always like, all right, I'm going to do it. You know, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm not going to let anything get in my way. And the main thing, like I said, is just being positive.
Yeah, and Gary's the king of being positive. So if you need help being positive, reach out to Gary. But, you know, it's working hard and working smart. So you really have to balance those two really well. So if you're a guy who doesn't have as much of the ability, like genetic abilities that really give you an advantage coming in, if you feel like you're way down on the totem pole, then you got to have a lot of positive. You got to have a big positive mentality, right? Mm-hmm. And you got to be really smart. So it's like, that's the hard thing when guys come in here a little bit more talented than others. They can just they can stay positive and then add a little smarts to it, and they get great results. And then other guys get frustrated when they do the same thing. You gotta be honest with yourself. You gotta know where you're coming in at, and that's why we do our evaluations in our camps right up front. We're showing you where you're coming in at, because we'll lay you out to everybody else. And when you see you're way down than everyone else, you can't come in with the same effort as everybody else, mm-hmm. right? Or the same understanding as everyone else. You got to get a better understanding, and you got to get a much better effort. Would that be right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to kill yourself every day, regardless of what God is giving you. Like, even if you're the best athlete, you want to outwork everyone. Like, you want to be the best person in there, even if you're not putting up the same numbers. You want to work harder than what they're working.
You guys coming to BBQ and beer during the ABCA? I didn't know about it. I'll be glad to come to it. Sounds like fun, right?
Yeah, it does.
Gary, you want to go? That'd be fun. Best advice to get out of arm drag, it's hip to shoulder separation. So arm drag are typically early trunk rotators, typically. So the more you can learn to delay and separate, meaning you get more explosive through the hip and get more, contralateral tilt, counter rotation in the trunk, then your arm has time to sync up and not get caught behind. He says 5 minutes from the ABCA. Okay, man. Text me when I'm over there. I definitely want to go. Should the ball be facing shortstop when pitching, like after you break up in the T position?
You're righty or lefty.
Doesn't matter. So they're basically, that's that old school stuff of like T, should I be pointing the ball back?
I mean, everything is a result of your drive. And like you said, stand back, but everything is a result of your drive. It puts you in the right position that you need to be in. Why are you gonna leave me here? Everything is a result of the drive and how explosive you get.
I talk about arm timing. So I don't care what you do, but when we land, I want the arm in a certain position. So you could come out of your glove and do all this, but when we land, I want the arm cocked in that position. If you take too long to get there, sometimes there's going to be problems. If you're too quick to be there, obviously there's going to be problems. But there's a video on YouTube, the arm action of a high-velocity pitcher. I'd say you go watch this. I talk about this. The arm needs to be flexed, 23 degrees behind the shoulder and the horizontal abduction, 53 degrees late into external rotation, 85 degrees in abduction. As long as the arm is there when you land, I don't care what you did to get there. Now, where is it pointing? Supination to pronation. if you go early to cocking, it needs to be pronated. So if you get up early, it needs to be pronated, because if I get up early and I'm supinated, then everything's gonna want to go early. So if I'm early, I need to stay pronated. If I'm late to arm cocking, I can be more supinated because I'm going to more quickly go into shoulder rotation. And if I'm still pronated and I'm coming late, I'm going to drag my arm. So the pronated supination should be predicated on the timing of the arm cocked position. Why is that I top at 85 and only have 150 power clean max? It doesn't make any sense. I feel like if I get up to 225, because Dom, when you come into this at a different athletic profile. So Cody Hall came in here and best he cleaned was 225 and he threw 100. It's because the guy already was throwing 100 without the power clean. The power clean helped him rebuild it, because when he came in here, he was slightly injured and he was sitting at 90, and just rebuilding him with a slight power clean got him back to 100. You know, you obviously have some strength that you are generating that velocity with, or whatever you genetically have and what you've built at this point. Yeah, you're right. If your power clean goes to 300, all it means is you have more power in your body. Now, if your mobility doesn't allow you to convert it, it's not going to convert. That's why power clean is not R equals 1, which is the correlation coefficient of power cleaning. Doesn't mean that's all you need to throw harder. It is a big piece of it. It has a high correlation of it. But be careful in thinking it's just one thing. But yeah, definitely, if you keep improving that, it's going to go up for you. You've got a lot of questions over there. You mind looking through them? When do you start seeing velocity? We're going to do that. Any discounts on the King of the Hill? I can't give discounts because I don't make it. You'd have to go to King of the Hill and ask for that. Hey, what's up, Thomas? The program is key. Follow the process. It works. No shortcuts. Thanks, Thomas. The man. Everybody follow Unearthed Sports Complex out of Tampa. Faith-based organization. Pretty amazing stuff. Thomas Casey, impressive coach. If you need a coach, go down to Tampa, guys. Great coach in Tampa.
How to get hip rotation during triple extension?
There you go. How do we get hip rotation during triple extension?
I'm going to let you answer that.
Come on, Gary. You can kill that. So triple extension is the extension of the back leg. That doesn't mean rotation of the back leg. And we want to do both. How do you maximize power through all movements? You extend and you rotate. You can even do it here. You extend and you rotate. You know, that's how we can go through full ranges and transfer energy, maximize power ultimately through those movements. So you have to understand how, driving's easy. We're sideways, we're just going to sit and drive. Now, how do we get rotation out of that? That's the front leg. The front leg's off the ground. So when it opens, it will start rotation. You just need to make sure that you sync your feet up. So when your front foot opens, you drive your back leg. Now, if you do that and your force vector, your ankle to knee isn't linear to the front, to the target, then you're going to open and you're not going to extend because you'll jump. So it's got to get linear. That's why we move forward and down the same rate out of leg lift. So now when I open and drive, it takes me to the target, and I can optimize both those movements. What do you get?
Would focusing on losing weight affect ball velocity? I added some excess body fat over the last 2 months.
Gary, talk about that.
Well, you know what the saying is, mass equals gas. But
what's the problem because you're a big guy? What's the problem when you're a big guy and you want to go lose weight? What's the problem on the other end when with your performance?
Your strength, then mobility.
It can have good and positive effects. You just got to be careful. Like sometimes you can go lose weight and you lose some muscle, and you lose some power.
You want to have the same productivity. If you're losing weight, you want to have the same productivity or more than when you were at that heavier weight.
Ultimately, yeah, you want more. So like if my weight goes down, my vert better go up.
Yeah.
But if my weight goes down and my vert doesn't go up, you probably lost power.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be careful with that. It's a tough thing to balance. I think Steven does a good job with the nutritional program and helping guys do that, because you got to be careful putting your body into a deficit of calories and going through this training. Like, tell them how much harder it is to get up when you're not eating.
Oh yeah,
enough.
If you're not fueling your body, it's not going to be able. You're not going to be able to do anything. Bad attitude. You're going to be sore. just a bunch of negativity.
You're going to be walking around like a diva, right?
Yeah.
Why is it important to land flat-footed versus heel or toe? Here's the thing with how you land. If you're a long strider, you're going to land heel. If you're a short strider, you'd probably land toe. So somewhere in between, you're going to land flat-footed. It just has to do with the distance of your stride. And I don't really care how you land. I care the positioning. I don't care on the foot position or the foot point. All I care about is how you get to front foot. That's, to me, the $1 million movement is how do you get to front foot. Can I use this program for my 10 to 12-year-old team? Yeah, I think it'd be great. I mean, you could do the beginner program, but yes, it would be great. I went to camp 2 years ago. I got Tommy John in the beginning of August, college freshman. Well, that stinks. So how'd you get Tommy John? What happened, man? Let us know, David. David, you got cut off there, so I can't see it. Inform us what went down. Was it a mechanical issue? What did you fall into? Was it overuse? What was the deal? What is the best way to gain velocity the quickest? What is the best way to gain velocity the quickest in the off season? You got to be careful with going quick because you could fall into injury. We got to focus on building the right foundation that we can advance off of. So we got to make sure that we train the kinetic chain to be efficient. We got to make sure that we're building good leg power, total body strength with that, so we can generate energy through that kinetic chain from the ground up. We got to monitor our overuse. We talk about overuse. You don't want to exceed a 1.3 acute to chronic workload, where basically you're jumping 30% up or more in your loads and throwing or even lifting. It's a good approach. And monitor basically your stress that way, and you can stay healthier. David said, inside 90-degree throwing and overuse, pitching multiple days a week in high school. Yeah, that's tough, man. Well, what was the rest of your question on that? Thanks for letting us know on the injury. David, what's the rest of your question that I can't see it? Unfortunately, break it up because Facebook cuts it off.
I have one. I throw 3/4 and have had elbow pain due to this. I feel great when throwing straight overhand, but I lose velo. So should I try and fix mechanics or switch to overhand and hopefully get more used to overhand slot?
Well, it's interesting that the unhealthier arm slots are below 90. So people think they're easier for your arm. Well, you throw slower down here, but when you start throwing hard down there, it's more torque on your arm. So, yeah, you should ultimately try to be in that arm slot. But, you guys, it's a full kinetic chain approach. You got to make sure, because right now, this shoulder, these shoulders are built on these hips. So if this hip is down, this shoulder's down. And then you're trying to get it up. Or if this hip is tight and this shoulder's tighter, both shoulders can be tight because of that. Then because this is the foundation. So when you're dealing with injury, it's really addressing the whole body, the mobility of the body, the strength, the power of the body, and how you use the body as far as efficiently and using the kinetic chain. You really need to go at it like that because you'll just be teeter-totting and you'll be like, oh, I did a lot of arm care this off season and my arm hurts because my hips got really tight and I was trying to use more arm. I mean, it kept me strong for half the season and then I started having severe arm pain because you didn't address all the lower half and all the kinetic chain stuff. So the point is, like, you got to go at all of it, build it all in. Would coming out over the summer be beneficial? Definitely, David. I would recommend you come this summer since you've been through the camp. Come down for the training, get in one of the housing, and let's get you, into a better place again. Like get your mechanics better. Let's give you a better mindset on avoiding injury and staying healthy. Anything else? I separate. Go ahead.
Well, how many? They want to know for a youth pitcher the med ball weight. What should they be using?
Yeah. So if the 2 pound, like they're getting a little pressure on their upper body because it's a little heavy, you can go down to a basketball, or we use the 1 pound med balls. I think that's a good way to go and work with them through the techniques. Guys, the one thing with the med balls, it's a great opportunity to teach the technique. Don't just get them and throw them. You got to get them and learn the 3X mechanics, and you got to use them to train the mechanics. Because typically when you put up these med balls, your mechanics get worse, and that's why we like them, because you're forced to get better, and it doesn't allow you to use your arms, so you're forced to focus on your legs and your core and everything.
Foot sink drills.
Yeah, sinking your feet up I like with the sled work, because with the sleds, if they don't sync up, you don't move the sled. So when we talk about the SLEGs in the beginners program, we get really in depth with them into the level 3 program. But the sleds are key, because if your feet don't sync up, you have a hard time driving the sled at all. My separation target throw is 72, so it's not just my med ball throws that are low, but you're saying my problem is more mobility. Yeah, I think mobility would help, and power. I know, Dom, it's mobility and power, man. I throw 3/4, and I have had elbow pain due to this. Oh, we went through this. I think he went to you and then me. When I go overhand, okay. Come to Florida. I'm sure Unearthed Sports will love to host a camp for y'all, and I'll definitely attend. I'm only 45 minutes from Tampa. Yes, I would like to. We're going to plan to do that. So, yeah, you should go down there and train as well. What's up, Jake? Never forgot the days training with Gary. Man killed me. That's Jake.
Hey, what's up, Jake?
And Mateo. Killed me and Mateo.
Yeah. Someone said, what happened to David Aardsma?
So David's retired. He is the pitching coordinator for the Toronto Blue Jays, and came here couldn't break 89, sat in AAA for the whole 2014 season. Still a great pitcher. They pretty much gave up on him because they didn't think, he was going to get back to his velocity. We trained him for 4-5 months here. He went into the Dodgers organization. They wouldn't give him a chance out of AAA, and he was the saves leader in the PCL. Like a month into the season, the Braves won him in the bigs. He took his option out, went to the Braves. They put him in the bigs. He pitched the rest of the year in the bigs with the Braves. So we got him back to the bigs. The next year he went to the Blue Jays, and it was tough. Went to Florida. There was rain. He was like missing starts, and it was a little mess for him. Never got in a groove, and he took his option because he went into AAA that year, and he took his option right out of the gate, and that was it. No other team was interested in him at that point. He went into indie ball, and we kept throwing harder. His ball speed kept going up, but didn't throw. But he just didn't come out of that. I mean, he was 35, 36 at the time, so that was a good run for him. 8 years, almost 8 total in the bigs, 14 different teams. I think 10 years he was there, but almost 8 total, 14 different teams. That's pretty impressive. So amazing career. He's a big advocate of what we do, and he's, like you said, he's a pitching coordinator for the Toronto Blue Jays. So. Taking a gap semester, if that makes sense. Went to NAI last semester, but I'd love to DME. Okay, that's cool. Dom's going to go to Unearthed. I like it. How to strengthen posterior deltoid after injury and throwing arm. So posterior deltoid after injury and throwing arm. I would start working overhead strength. So like follow active life. Get into your overhead holds. We do a lot of it too. Overhead pressing. And then I would start doing reverse. Start off very light. Do reverse pulls, because that really gets into the posterior shoulder there. But you got to start building it overhead first. Ability to have some strength overhead, and then start reverse pulling. You can then get into your rotator cuff stuff. At the same time too, you better be building your core and your hips and your legs. But you need a better strength approach, and you need to get your overhead strength very strong. What's the value of R in the power clean correlation? I haven't done the power clean correlation because all of our data is the camp evaluations. We have some. We have the guys that write them on the walls. We collect the power clean. We haven't been collecting their lifting data. We have it in all of our testimonials. I could just grab all that and run correlations. But we do have the correlations, and the ground forces of the back leg and the front leg highly correlate to ball velocity. R equals 0.6, almost 0.7. And power cleans are going to enhance that ground force. So there you go right there. Anything over there?
Why do muscles get tight? Overcompensation of weak muscles?
Yeah, that's a factor of tight muscles. They're overcompensating for weak muscles. They're fatigued, and they take on a lot of wear and tear, and so muscle protein synthesis is stimulated by leucin, which is an amino acid, and working out. Actual long distance running reduces or anaerobic training reduces muscle protein synthesis. What is muscle protein synthesis? That's when your body's rebuilding muscle. So if you're not doing heavy resistance training, if you're not eating protein, then these muscles aren't growing. And if you're doing a lot of anaerobic training, you're even reducing your body's rebuilding of those muscles. And then muscles be breaking down. They could be smaller and weaker and tighter. And typically weak muscles are tight muscles. So you need to get stronger, and you need to get stronger in the big muscles that can better support those joints and allow those tighter muscles to release. And that's the thing. That's why you can't just stretch. You got to strengthen in the process, and you got to build function when you build strength. Is 84 good for a 15-year-old? Heck yeah, that's really good, man. I have to poo. It's really bad. It's coming out. All right, man. We got some young kids on here. Sounds like my 6-year-old. Core movements versus strength movements, or power movements versus strength movements. Well, power is typically, you got to be careful when they say powerlifting. It doesn't even, those lifts like the deadlift and the squat, those really aren't power movements. Power movements is when you have rate of force development is in a short interval. So, for example, cleans and snatches, right? That means you have a short amount of time to generate force. That's a power movement, and those are going to be critical for enhancing your dynamic athletic abilities, which is like jumping, running, throwing. But strength movements are important because they can help build power. Is 65 miles per hour slow as a high school freshman? Guys, I wouldn't be worried about when you're young how hard you're throwing. It needs to be focused on, you need to focus on like building your foundation, so as you age, you are making big gains when you start to mature, not when you're really young. How hard should a 15-year-old be throwing? Like I just said, it needs to be a focus on building the foundation, and you can focus on speed when you're getting close to showcasing yourself. And you have the foundation, and now you're pushing for those gains. You got anything over there?
What if a baseball player had the strength of C.J. Cummins? Who is C.J. Cummins?
Oh, he's that Olympic lifter. I never showed you him. He's like that 16-year-old Olympic lifter. He's a freak.
Wow.
I'll show him to you. Well, here's the thing. I think that's the key here. Those Olympic lifters have extremely high athletic or rate of force development. They're very mobile. If they could learn the skill of hitting and pitching, I think it would be very impressive. Now, also understand these Olympic lifters are very short. They're very short people. So they are disproportionate in the lever sizes. So they wouldn't actually be good prototypes in how tall they are. They'd be poor. But in their power production, it would be insane. But if you could put their power production in someone tall, it would be ultimately what you'd want to see. So what's up, Alex? I ran into high school baseball coach at store, and he told me all that's needed is long toss and don't weight lift. So then there's no recovery. I was laughing inside when I heard this, but didn't respond. Yeah, I know. Well, we got this poo guy all over here. Somebody's. Look at it.
What is it?
Some kid on here having fun. Can you make that front leg on ground contact completely straight? Yeah, you do, but you want to land in flexion, and then you want to finish in extension. You got to get another going?
Nah.
All right. You can, David asking how long you can stay. You can stay as long as you want for the summer, man. Where's your program? Our program is online, topvelocity.net. You can learn more about the programs. We have camps here in Louisiana, and we do them remotely all over the country. Guys, don't forget, we're going to ABCA the 3rd through 5th. We're going to be in Dallas. Come out and see us. Pretty fun experience. Let's see, what med ball drills are most important to gaining velocity? We develop these med ball drills using different positions and segmenting the movement in different ways. And you're kind of building on pieces. So you're starting in your chest ups, then you're building into your separations, and there's a bunch of ones in between. Then you go into lateral positions because you're in linear positions. Then you can work it on, ultimately, then you transfer it to the baseballs, and you work it to the mound. We have a full progression of how all this works and how you build this, and it helps. Because if you're someone who's just going through your delivery trying to make changes, it's too hard to make a change when so many things are happening. So these drills will put you in a segment of that movement and allow you to simply express a part of it, so then you can focus on something specific without being overwhelmed, right? Don't you think all those drills really help you kind of isolate things and work on things more?
Yeah, to
cleanly?
get you out of all your bad habits.
And you start noticing things that you're not doing well, right? Yep.
So I hadn't eaten, so this just got me kind of.
Oh, you want to go?
I mean,
Yeah.
I'll stay if you need me.
No,
to.
I'm good. Go
All
eat.
right. Thanks.
Go eat. I need to eat
Peace.
too. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. That helps a lot. Well, we're almost ending here, so we'll take a few more questions. And should we be worried about getting fat? This can hinder muscle gain if not mistaken. Yeah, you should focus on eating well and lifting and training every day or 5 days a week, so you're burning good calories. And your goal should be ultimately to perform well. And all the things, your diet, your lifting, your mentality, all should be built around supporting that. And that's how you have more success with it. All right. Will you have any programs, camps in New Jersey? I don't have any scheduled right now. We did do one in New York, which was fun. Maybe soon, if you can find some academies that would like to have us out, we'd be glad to kind of work with them. How to maintain off-season gains during the season. Specifically with our in-season programming, it takes the lifting, it modifies it for the season, which is important. It takes the drills and modifies them for the season, works in with your rotation, around your rotation. You need to make sure your programming is a modified version of what you did in the off-season that you can keep going, and you have to keep up with it. If not, you're going to have issues. I had labrum surgery. What do you think about labrum surgery currently on month 6? Yeah, it's a tough surgery. I had rotator cuff surgery. I tore my supraspinatus. But anything in the shoulder is a really tough surgery to deal with. You just need to come back with a lot stronger body, overhead strength, better mechanics, better hip to shoulder separation. A lot of key things that we do needs to be enhanced before you really get back in there and start competing again. Alex, January 13th, I'm coming over 100 miles per hour and coming for you. That would be awesome, Alex. I'm excited to have you, man. I got to get that computer ready for you. Can you use King of the Hill but switch out foot plate to convert it to King of the Swing? Does Rich sell just a smaller foot piece? Yes, you can go get his foot piece. Is there any aspect of the vertical leap in the 2X program? Yeah, I mean, it's a part, same thing. You're doing all the Olympic stuff. So we're focusing on vertical power, lateral power, linear power. That's all a big part of it. Even for position players, very important. How do we get flexion and back leg without drop and drive? So you are dropping, you're just moving forward and down at the same rate. That's the key here. As you lift, forward and down at the same rate. You're not just going down, you're not just going forward. Forward and down at the same rate, then you're going to open front foot and drive. We talk about that in the online course, or the course you can get on the lower half, topvelocity.net/lower half. How to maintain off-season, okay, we already did that. Will you have any programs? Do your muscles get tight? We already talked about drills to improve. Do you get flexion bend to the back leg? What is a base player? I think we answered most of these. What's some good body weight exercises for pitchers? Any plyometric movements are typically body weight exercises, but that's still, you need more than that. But that's good body weight exercises. Yes. Average is about, okay. I'm a freshman in high school. So should I try and fix my mechanics or switch to overhand? All right, we don't know how to fix an arm slot. I think we got it all, guys. Any last questions here before we head out on this Friday? Like I said, if you want to get in and learn more about our programming, how to better use the kinetic chain, how to develop your lower half, to transfer more energy to your upper half. I mean, it teaches you about the upper half too in all of our programming. But a good place to start is topvelocity.net/lower half. Alex says, Napa Camp was awesome. Thanks again. I had a great time. Alex, that was awesome. I enjoyed it. We had a blast out in Napa. It was fun meeting MLB pitcher Warren Brewster. That was really awesome. Napa Valley College, we got to use their facilities, enjoyed and appreciate all that. I really want to thank Ken Atkins for putting that together, who helps to run a lot of the youth programs out there. Hope we can do more out there in the future. It was a blast. How long after you tear did you make a full recovery? It took me 3 years, but when I tore my rotator cuff, doctors told me I'd never play again. And I knew why when I started the training back. In 3 years, I was able to throw competitively again, and then it took another 3 to get to a high, into the 90s and play professional baseball. I did it my first college appearance. Do the online programs come with specific reps to do? Yes, everything's in calendars. They're in 8-week calendars that you cycle. It's a 3-calendar system. It's a drill-based throwing program, Olympic-based strength and conditioning program, anaerobic conditioning program. So you are going to go through those 3 calendars, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for 8 weeks, and it recycles. And then you have off-season calendars, 3 levels of it, with a beginner program, and preseason, in-season calendars. It's more calendars that you would ever want. Any 3X drills, 3X pitchers weekend camps, any 3X pitchers weekend camps in January is still available. Yes, we have one the 7th and 8th because we're coming back late from the ABCA. And then, I don't know if there's one after that. You'd have to check. All right. Is training at your facility extra, or is it an option with buying the program? If so, how do I go about heading over there to train? So it's a part of the camp. You have to attend the camp at topvelocity.org, and then that includes all your training. You can train as long as you want. We don't charge for training, but you have to go through 3X Velocity Camp because that's where you'll be evaluated, you'll be instructed, you'll be given all the programming, and you can start your training here. How are we supposed to clean more than 100% of your 1-rep max? It says in the 2X program, because that's when you get to your max week, and it's just telling you at week 8, your 100% max should be higher. So you're trying to see where it is, and that's how you're trying to find your new max, your higher max. Now, if you don't like doing 1 reps because your technique breaks down, you can stay at 3 reps, 2 reps, and do your best of 2 or best of 3. Then you can go to bodybuilding.com or just look anywhere online for a 1-rep max calculator. You can put in best of 3 or best of 2, and it'll tell you your 1-rep max. Were you able to gain velocity after your surgery? Yeah, I was probably 86, 87 before I tore the rotator cuff, and then 6 years after, I was low 90s, low to mid 90s at best. All right, I think we hit them all. Here's another one. When you are in your leg lift, should your back leg pinch in and push off, or should it back and hip snap? So you want to fall forward and down the same rate. You want to allow your hip to adduct. You're staying in flexion though, so there's some torsion or external rotation. And then your femur is, even though you're holding this flexion and abduction, your femur will come down, or your tibia will come down when it gets linear. Then you can open and let rotation go and drive into the movement. Yeah, is that Adam 4322? That was hilarious. Is that Mosher? Who's Adam 4322? I lost my college contracts and throw 50 miles per hour. I live with my mom, yeah. That was funny, guys. How to prevent bicep tendonitis or shoulder impingement. So bicep tendonitis comes just from a lot of throwing and a lot of arm throwing, a lot of probably late internal rotation. So it's really not good hip to shoulder separation, not good leg power. You're just typically you're in some typical wear and tear, and the bicep decelerates the form, so that can take a lot of wear and tear. Also, your bicep could be getting weak. You got to reset at that point. You got to build better mechanics. You got to build more power up the kinetic chain. You got to get your legs stronger, your core stronger, and you got to start putting it all together. So you're kind of you're at that point where you've thrown too much and your mechanics have broken down. What causes a pitcher to go from a triple extender to a knee slammer? Typically, they stop engaging lower leg, so they stop really pushing off their lower leg. They get more in adduction. So they want to sit here and adduct through their femur, as opposed to extend and push through the ground. It can still work, but it's not good for your groin. It can just wear your groin down a lot more. It can be hard on your knee. A lot of guys have knee pain, groin pain, labrum pain, and it's hard to separate well with it too. Best exercise to have endurance during the game for starting pitchers. So that should be in your anaerobic conditioning. So, you know, all the lifting and stuff builds power. It's going to give you some endurance through that. And then the anaerobic stuff, the speed and agility stuff, that's where you really build the anaerobic power to where your body wants to buffer more of it and then have more, you know, through later in the game or through the game. What is the difference between 2X and 5 tools? So 2X is more in depth to throwing mechanics for a position player, training and velocity for a position player. 5 tools covering all 5 tools. It has the same thing. They both have similar strength and conditioning approaches. I think I'd want to have both. They're both laid out slightly differently, and they're great. But the 2X is a little bit more in depth into the throwing mechanics, and the 5 tools more in depth into all 5 tools and just kind of the basics of preparing all 5 tools. Have you ever been to a Jays game? I've never been to a game. I've worked for them, but I've never been. I don't know how to gain my velocity back coming off shoulder elbow injury. You got to go through go through our program where you really rebuild your body, rebuild your kinetic chain, and you start to put it together. How long did you wait to start throwing weighted balls after surgery? I never touched a weighted ball after surgery except for the med balls, and that's a big difference because it's a 2-handed throw as opposed to a 1-handed throw. I did weighted ball training before my surgery, and then after that I wanted nothing to do with any extreme throwing because I believe that linked to my injury. So I got into more total body movements, more kinetic chain training, and it allowed me to come back. Do you remember when you were cleared to throw at speed? I don't remember when I was cleared to do that. I mean, after like a year, they kind of were like, you're on your own, and I could barely throw still, and I just had to try to rebuild my body just so I could get some power to throw the ball slightly hard. How do I do plyo care now that it's been 4 months off of throwing? I don't know, man. We don't do plyo care. When will you guys get multiple facilities? Probably not, guys. There's just too much liability here. I'm already in 2 lawsuits from my competitors, and I'm constantly attacked. And, I do my best. My focus is to really give out a lot of give out as much of the information as I can. So we're not here like cleaning it up with money, which we're just hoping to keep this roof up right now. I don't really see another facility. I'm just going to keep doing what we do here, guys, and trying to do more remote training and try to get more certified coaches who want to be a part of this method. I think that's the best we can do. The back leg should bend when you're moving forward. So when you're moving forward, the back leg should flex and hold torsion, hold external rotation. So basically, it's going to delay internal rotation by holding external rotation. All right, guys, I think this was a good day. And how many feet? I don't know. I'm looking at Periscope, not many great questions there. All right, this is good. Appreciate you guys. Topvelocity.net/lower half if you want to get into learn more about what we do and how we build a better kinetic chain, how we enhance velocity and reduce risk of injury, how we put it all together, how we gain 5 to 10 plus miles per hour, how we become testimonials, how we break 90. That's a good place to start. Topvelocity.net/lower half. Strongly believe I just need to gain muscle and strength for me to start throwing hard again. Thanks for all your info. Hey, man, I appreciate that. And thanks for you guys hanging out and watching. And I'll see you guys again.